Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Okay, so today we're going to do something that might feel, well, a little uncomfortable at first. We are about to completely dismantle literally everything society has taught us about hustle culture. Think about the most elite violinists in the world, the ones studying at the top academies over in Berlin. A famous study found that the absolute best performers didn't actually practice more hours overall than their good but not great peers. In fact, no way around it, they often slept more and took way more leisure time. From the very first time we step into a classroom or an office, we're fed this specific narrative. To achieve more, you just gotta do more. But what if the data and the research point in the exact opposite direction? Today, we're diving deep into the core mechanics of radical peak performance breakthroughs, and these findings are absolutely gonna change how you structure your entire day.
Seriously? Sit with this for just a second. What if working less actually made you elite? I want you to challenge your core beliefs right now. We constantly equate long hours with dedication and ultimately with success. But this paradoxical question sits at the very heart of today's explainer. If you want to perform at the absolute highest level in your field, logging endless hours isn't just ineffective, it's actively holding you back from elite status. All right, let's dive into section 1, the high volume output myth, dismantling the obsession. Because let's be real, we live in a world that literally never stops. The modern grind demands more emails, more meetings, more tasks checked off this endless list, day after day, hour after hour. It's a relentless trap. We've developed this complete obsession with high volume output, treating sheer quantity as the ultimate metric of human value. Actually, scratch that. It's worse. It's treating exhaustion as a badge of honor. A typical high volume schedule looks like back-to-back video calls from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., followed by, answering emails on the couch until midnight. And it leads straight to burnout, mental fog, and severe diminishing returns. But on the other side, you have cognitive recovery. The source material reveals a fascinating biological reality here. Cognitive recovery is the primary engine of elite results. It's not a luxury. It's the engine itself. A recovery-focused schedule might mean focused, intense, deep work blocks in the morning, completely offset by a disconnected afternoon. So while high-volume output is draining your mental battery, cognitive recovery is doing the actual heavy lifting behind the scenes to produce top-tier work. Pushing harder simply fails. When you hit a wall, the instinct is to just put your head down and force your way right through it. But think about decision fatigue like a physical muscle. If you do bicep curls for 6 hours straight, your muscle eventually fails, right? It physically cannot lift the weight anymore. Well, your brain operates the exact same way. Past a certain point of continuous effort, you hit severe diminishing returns. Your cognitive muscle is completely exhausted, and every single hour you forced yourself to keep going actually produces lower quality work while requiring double the effort. This source makes it perfectly clear. We absolutely must dismantle the obsession. We have to aggressively tear down this old paradigm of grinding through exhaustion if we ever want to unlock those radical peak performance breakthroughs. We aren't just adjusting our schedules here. We're tearing down the very foundation of how we define productive work. Okay, moving right along to section 2, the 4-hour work limit, a strict boundary. So if the old way is broken, what replaces it? We need a tangible, practical solution to break this cycle of endless output. And that solution comes in the form of a boundary. 4. That's the number. I want you to imagine, right now, stopping your most demanding work entirely after just 4 hours. Imagine stepping away from the desk, closing the laptop, and knowing you are completely done for the day. I know, this sounds radical, but historically, it's kind of the norm for geniuses. Charles Darwin famously worked for about 2 90-minute blocks in the morning, and maybe 1 more hour later in the day. After that, he went for walks and read. Henri Poincaré, the legendary mathematician, worked precisely from 10 a.m. to noon, and then 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. That's it. According to the research, this strict 4-hour work limit is the definitive anchor point of true elite performance. But listen, the word strict is absolutely vital here. This isn't just some vague suggestion to try and clock out early if you're feeling tired. Enforcing this specific, non-negotiable boundary is the secret sauce. Practically, this means setting hard cutoff times, utilizing automatic app blockers to physically prevent you from logging back in, and communicating really clear availability boundaries to your team. It's the only way we successfully move away from mere volume. When you cap your time so ruthlessly, you force yourself to prioritize, to hyper-focus, and to extract the absolute highest quality of output in a limited window. Which brings us to section 3, the engine of cognitive recovery, the science of rest. Now, you might be wondering, why does this actually work? Let's shift the narrative to the underlying brain mechanics. We aren't just guessing here. We need to prove exactly why this strict 4-hour limit actually functions as a massive catalyst for high performance. It all comes down to the biological reality of neuroconsolidation. This elevates the conversation from just a lifestyle opinion to a hard biological fact. Neuroconsolidation is a super intense cognitive process. Think of your brain like a massive library. During your 4 hours of deep work, you're basically tossing hundreds of new books, facts, and ideas onto the floor. It's a chaotic mess. But when you enforce your work limits and finally step away, the librarian comes out. Your brain doesn't shut off, it gets to work. The librarian shelves the books, synthesizes the information, and makes critical connections behind closed doors. It is this exact process that turns strategic rest into a literal competitive advantage. So the biological sequence goes exactly like this. First, you enforce the strict work limits. That act of literally stopping is the biological trigger. Second, by stopping, you trigger that intense neural consolidation we just talked about. Your brain finally gets the space it desperately needs to organize complex thoughts. And finally, that biological process allows you to turn rest into a competitive advantage. You return to your work sharper, faster, and way more creative. In fact, studies show. And that leads us to Section 4. Ruthless idleness for elite results. Redefining rest.
We really need to completely reframe how we view downtime. Society tells us that sitting around doing nothing is just lazy, right? Well, we're about to learn that downtime is actually an active, strategic weapon for the modern professional. So the crucial point is this: peak performance requires ruthless idleness. Think about that combination of words for a second. Idleness usually implies passivity, but here, it must be ruthless. You have to guard your time off as fiercely as you guard your time on. This doesn't mean passively scrolling social media. Ruthless idleness means taking a long walk without a podcast playing in your ears. It means sitting on your porch and just staring at the trees. It means giving your mind absolute, uninterrupted quiet. It requires immense discipline to step away, to truly disconnect, and to let your brain engage in the recovery necessary to fuel tomorrow's peak performance. It's an active, vital requirement, not some optional reward.
The greatest breakthroughs happen during deliberate disconnection. I want that to really sink in. This concept echoes throughout the research of top performance psychologists. Think about the most brilliant ideas you've ever had. They rarely happen when you're staring blankly at a blinking cursor on hour 9 of a workday, do they? Consider Einstein's theory of relativity. Einstein famously developed some of his most profound insights while playing the violin or sailing, completely detached from his chalkboard. That is deliberate disconnection. When you forcefully remove your conscious attention from the problem, your subconscious, that librarian we talked about, is finally allowed to deliver the solution. That, my friends, is the paradox of deep work.
Which leaves us with one final, absolutely essential question for you. The science is crystal clear. The obsession with high-volume output is a complete myth, and cognitive recovery is your true engine for success. So how are you going to use your next hour of ruthless idleness? Are you going to fill it with distractions, or will you aggressively protect it, deliberately disconnect, and set the stage for your very next radical breakthrough? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer.